Good morning and welcome to this year's annual State of the Clubs breakfast for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Santa Monica. I'm Tom Larmore and I've got the privilege of serving as the chair of the club's Board of Governors. You know, when we met last year, little did we know that we were at the beginning of what has proven to be a long and extremely disruptive period in our lives. But we did know that the pandemic was going to drastically affect the needs of our members and their families and the way in which we would deliver services to meet those needs. Well, the events of the last year have proven the wisdom of the old saying, life is what happens when you made other plans, and the importance of remaining flexible and being able to pivot quickly as circumstances change. Today, you're going to hear about how we have served our members over the last year and the way in which our programs have affected the lives of many people. And more broadly, you'll hear from our outstanding Youth of the Year, George Ontiveros, about how the club's programming has impacted his life, and also from one of our exemplary alumni, J.A. Adande, and also from one of our longtime and extremely generous donors, Cindy Ludy Jones, about what inspires and motivates her to continue to support the club. So I hope you enjoy the program, and I'll see you a bit later.
Good morning. Thank you, Tom, and welcome everyone to our 2021 State of the Club event. I hope you have a little cup of tea or coffee and something to nibble on as we inspire and entertain you for this next hour. We know everyone is back in action and things are getting work hard to keep this event to 1 hour this morning, but it will be an action-packed hour. As Tom said, you'll hear from some parents about the impact the club has had on their kids and their entire families, both over this past year and all the time. We'll get to hear from a special educator, Vice Principal Dr. Yuri of John Adams Middle School, and much more. So sit back and relax, and we hope you enjoy a little breakfast company today.
I am a parent of 3.
I have a son that comes here. His name is Khalil.
I'm a single grandma. I'm raising him since he was a small child.
He's been coming to Boys and Girls Club between 10 or 8 years.
I was one of the first members at the Santa Monica Boys and Girls Club branch in John Adams.
I don't really just look at it as a place to drop off your kid for after-school program.
Actually, he prefers this over school.
I think it has its social function to help these kids interact, gain more social skills, see themselves in a very different way.
My 8-year-old was very shy. He couldn't even raise his hand. He was so embarrassed. But now, I've noticed as he's attending Boys and Girls Club, they've gained a lot of confidence.
They care about the whole family, the whole person, you know, and they want to make sure that we're okay.
They help my kid with homework, activity.
They have a leadership program. All 3 of my children love it.
To stay out of the street.
If I didn't really have the Boys and Girls Club, I would just like mess around after school.
They allow them to express themselves and be very open.
And I think the most profound thing is that the diversity that kids are exposed to. And I think that has enriched how they look at themselves and made them somewhat a lot more open, friendly, tolerant.
The club allowed her to get to know students that was at her school that she would have never had that chance to meet them before. It brought the utmost confidence within them.
And on top of that, you build really great relationships with wonderful people.
I couldn't ask for a better staff.
We see them like family, like an aunt, like an uncle, like a big brother, a big sister.
It's nice to feel a part of a family.
I have a very bond with them, like, you know, like I feel it's my family. It's the second home Valentin sees.
And when I come and pick them up, it's hard for me to take them back home because they don't want to leave. They're like a teacher and a part of the family.
And they have been very impactful on our life and many other lives as well.
The staff here, the way they interact with people, they acknowledge everybody, they make you very welcome. They never really make you feel uncomfortable.
I love the program, and I know he does too.
My 8-year-old's like, can we just stay here? Can we camp outside? I was like, sure, you can be their security guard.
That does not go unnoticed.
They really build a real deep connection between each and every one, to the point where even though you're not a member now, further down the line that would say, hey, Jesus, I remember you. You used to come to the Boys and Girls Club.
If something happens through them, it's like if something happened to us. If they need help, we there. If we need help, most of the time when we really need help, they're always there for us.
You feel the warmth when you come here, when they receive you, when they greet you every morning, every weekend. They take care of us and my kids.
I've been in education since 2001, so 20 years, more or less, and I've been here in Santa Monica at John Adams for 7 years. We share space, and I think the connection with the Boys and Girls Club brings that family sense, and I'm confident based on the relationships that I can get on the phone and call and say, hey Jason, hey Betta, are you available to help? And if they're available, that's it, they'll be there for us. But with the pandemic, school shut down, the clubhouse is shut down, but the students are still going to school virtually. And so Jason and Betta came, hey Doc, we have an idea. They wanted to provide some support for struggling students. There was some students who wasn't showing up and wasn't logging in and wasn't turning in work and had multiple Fs. We need a space, a safe space for these kids to come and get it done. I said, that's the name, Get It Done. And we've been doing it since mid-first semester. So the way Get It Done works is we had Boys and Girls Club staff, Jason and Betta. We also had Boys and Girls Club volunteers. And then we reached out to our 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade counselors who are our neediest kids. We wanted to make them comfortable coming. So they started to come into the virtual room. It was great because the kids would come in and you started to see smiles and they would share activities and we would do 2 truths and a lie and those type of community building activities. It became like a safe space that I felt students felt like they can come to where people cared about them and showed it through our time. And you started to hear comments from teachers of like, is so-and-so going to Get It Done? Which we would let them know, yes, she's been here, like, because we have this big history project that she really needs to get done. Yeah, we already know. She's been working on it with us. And at the end, she confirmed that, yes, she actually did turn in this big project. This was a student who hadn't and wasn't turning in anything. So just because we come back to campus, some of those needs are still going to be there. There's some students who are not coming back to campus. Some of the students who are coming back to campus, but they did miss a lot and they are behind and they need to connect. I think that this program needs to continue. Together, we're more powerful and effective in serving the needs of the neediest, those who really, really need that help and support.
I'm so proud to hear things like when we need the club, they're there for us. Whether it's a parent or an educator, or whether it's about food or academic support for our at-risk kids, we've truly had the honor of supporting our community this year. Our entire staff, you heard Dr. Yuri talk about Jason Hurd and Betta. There's Jay and Linda and LaPierre, Zaria, Juan, Nina, Brian, Ian, Renita, Betta, Chuck, Gigi. There's just too many to mention by name, but they've all dedicated themselves 100% to the health and well-being of our families over this past year. But you know, we're not alone. our team extends out into the community. We're so fortunate to have been in this community for 76 years and to have the friends and supporters of this work that have been with this club for all of that time. And this year we wanted to recognize some of those supporters. So we created something we're calling the 100K Plus Club. We have several donors and families that have given at least that much to the club over the years. And Tom and I wanted to take a moment to thank each and every one of them. And after that, you'll hear directly from a really special person. She's a motivational speaker, a health professional, she's a businesswoman, and she's a deeply generous philanthropist. Her name is Cindy Ludy Jones, and she and her wonderful husband, Jack, are the founders of our Mar Vista Gardens Club, which is based in the heart of Mar Vista Gardens housing project in Culver City. You'll get to hear from Cindy what this work has meant to her and really how it's impacted her and Jack's lives. So over to you, Tom, and I'll be back.
Hello again. I'd like to share a few words with you about 33 very generous individuals who are $100,000 plus lifetime donors to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Santa Monica. Each of these generous people has passionately committed to support youth in our community through our programming, and their generosity inspires us every day. Jack and Cindy Jones invest from the heart, making sure that our kids and the community are able to thrive and grow. Their lifetime gifts of more than $1 million have made a huge impact on kids in our program, and particularly those in Mar Vista Gardens, which was their inspiration. Longtime leaders in the community, Bettina and Glenn Duvall, have invested in kids and paved the way for their futures. Dixie and the late, great Wayne Harding are some of the club's earliest supporters. We owe them a debt of gratitude for all they've done to sustain our kids and families over the years. Chris Harding comes from the Harding family that has helped solidify the foundation of SMBGC. The ongoing support of Chris and his wife Lori continue this legacy of leadership and generosity with our kids, families, and throughout our community. Larry and Stacy Cole are ardent and generous proponents of our club and have been for many years. Their gifts in support of our tech center have helped us transform our space into a beacon for STEM for our kids. As a long-standing board member and board chair, Bob has seen our club through thick and thin, always providing wisdom and dedication to our kids. Bob and his late wife, Kathy, are part of the Boys and Girls Clubs family. Michael and Lisa Titleman are champions for our club in every way. Our club, kids, and families are so fortunate to have the Titlemans as true and faithful friends. From his time as one of our club members to his success as CEO of Guidance Solutions, past board chair Jason Mignot has been a generous leader within the Boys and Girls Clubs of Santa Monica. If Boys and Girls Clubs of Santa Monica has a need, Bill Dawson is there to help. Past board chair Bill frequently put the needs of our children and the community at the top of his priority list. Lauren and Ping have been dedicated to making sure our boys and girls have a brighter future. Their passion for this work is felt in both time and treasure. The impact of Wade Killefer and Barbara Flaming in the Santa Monica community is remarkable. Their contributions, made over decades, have made an enormous difference to our children and families. Dee is a hero to our club and to the community. As the first woman to chair our Board of Governors, Dee's kind leadership has served our kids and families in too many ways for us to count. Kevin and Emily Doyle have helped our clubs endure and provide critical resources to our kids and their families. The Doyles never forget about their SMBG family, and we deeply appreciate them. Amy Goldberg is a passionate and dedicated advocate for kids in our community and for the health and well-being of her community as a whole. Paul Leone has been an integral part of our club and the Santa Monica community for decades. Paul and Marilyn's support of SMBGC has never wavered. For decades, the wonderful Robert Siegel and his late wife, Jeannie, have remained faithful supporters of the Boys and Girls Clubs of Santa Monica. Robert also gives of his time, having sat on the board for many years. Art and Pat Anton have supported the club for almost 20 years. Their purposeful philanthropy has uplifted our kids and families.
I grew up in the inner city of Kansas City, there was a community center, and I had a lot of fun at that community center. That was like the livelihood of the neighborhood. So I feel that this is just the way of bringing it to life again for these kids. The Boys and Girls Club is an extremely special place for these kids to come, do some of the things and explore some of the things that they love, and make friendships that I really truly believe these kids it will last a lifetime. The first day it opened, which was 8 years ago last January, we went out to the bleachers and did the photo opportunity, and after it was all over and Jack and I were heading towards the car, I had a tap on my shoulder, and I turned around and it was this big awkward kid. And he stuck out his hand and he looked me straight in the eyes and he said, "I want to thank you." And that's when it hit me, the most profound thing that this was all about. Because when you do something like become a founder, they give you congressional recognitions and senators want to shake your hand and pat you on the back, but you don't know what it means until that kid sticks out his hand and looks you in the eye and thanks you. The pandemic was extremely worrisome, and my mind would immediately go to the serious problems that the families faced here, that, you know, maybe they couldn't stay home and homeschool their children. They had to go to work, and the parents know that these kids are in a safe place. I have seen these little snippets of children with these tender little faces grow into young adults ready to head off to college. And I am like, our future's going to be just fine. What we do for ourselves dies with us. What we do for others does live on. And that is a meaningful thing to see this club continue on.
Of the 100K Plus Club that we didn't mention yet is our fabulous board chair, Tom Larmer, and his wife, Carone. Tom is always a phone call away, always ready to provide a listening ear, sound advice, or even to pore over legal or financial documents to make sure we're operationally stable. And he and Carone match their time and efforts with financial support as well, and we couldn't be any more grateful. So I want you to know as well that we have a few new and a few ongoing supporters in our community that have really stepped up in a big way over the course of the pandemic to provide the academic support and the food, some technology needs, and the direct financial assistance to our families. Those donors are Jonathan Watts of KFA, thank you, Jonathan, Bryce and Kathleen Maddock, the family of Mark Howard Williams and Dave McIntosh and his entire family, and Brian and Selena Boxer-Wackler. We want to thank Jim and Mimi Jonason and Jim's Technology Executive Network. And we cannot forget the wonderful Carl and Megan Walter, who give endlessly of their time, talent, and treasure to support our children and who are producing this show today. So thank you, Carl and Megan. Next, you'll hear from some of our parents. Some of these parents were recipients of our direct financial assistance for many of our neighbors across Los Angeles. When the pandemic struck and businesses were shut down, there was a lot more month at the end of the money, and they just needed help with rent and other critical bills. So thanks to many of you, that's what we did. So after that, you'll hear from an outstanding young leader that Tom mentioned, our 2020 Youth of the Year, Santa Monica High School senior and soon-to-be USC freshman, George Ontiveros. And finally, you'll get to hear from an alumnus who has gone off to do big things and to make both the Santa Monica Boys and Girls Clubs and the entire Santa Monica community proud. And that's J.A. Adonde. And then you'll get a chance to ask J.A. questions about his life path and where he is today. So asking questions actually means putting them in the chat. So in the bottom left side of your screen is a chat. And so any question you want to ask, please feel free to put in there, and we'll try to get to as many of them as we can. I think we will have the time to answer quite a few, so please don't be shy. So I hope you enjoy this next few minutes, and I'll be back in a few.
When the pandemic started, I lost my job.
At the beginning of the pandemic, our house ended up with a leak. So we ended up living in a hotel for about 4 months. During the time my husband was laid off, and also at the time I had to stop working as well. So it hit us very, very hard.
I was just so depressed. You know, I was just laying on my floor.
When schools got shut down, that's when I started panicking. I didn't panic any other time until the schools got shut down.
There's not a lot of places that are open to help you and your child.
The virtual learning is really, really stressful. It was really stressful for my kids to the point that they got into some sort of a depression. They didn't want to get in the computer anymore. They were tired of being there for long hours, and just sitting down and looking at a screen wasn't the same.
We missed the Boys and Girls Club program since when the pandemic started. We were so worried about how our kids gonna come and have fun and working out with activity.
Because our financial situation, we had struggles in having internet Wi-Fi at home.
Either I'm failing as an employee because I'm trying to be a mom and take care of schoolwork, or I'm failing as a mom because I'm trying to take care of work at the same time.
When I found out that the Boys and Girls Club was opened, like, I immediately, okay, I'm in.
I feel safe bringing him here. The precautions on the pandemic, that what they're taking is absolutely, I love it.
The most impactful thing for Boys and Girls Club is to open their doors in the middle of the pandemic and say, we are here to serve the community, and we would like to have your kids come stay with us.
My daughter was the first one to jump up out of the bed, and my kid was exciting.
They really, really are doing a great job, and I really appreciate that.
Every Wednesday, they've offered us a food box, which has helped tremendously, and they've also helped me financially in paying the bills.
They were here, the Boys and Girls Club was here to make sure that my family and we were taken care of.
Sometimes we don't have, like, enough money to go buy groceries, and when we come here, we have the food for the whole entire week. It's a fresh food, beans, everything, milk.
They have provided food, they have provided financial assistance, they have provided moral support.
We're in a difficult situation. Obviously, the help we get here it goes a long way.
We just lost my father-in-law in January due to COVID, and the staff was amazing with my kids.
They were helping me quite a bit with my bills. They were helping with food.
They have supported the struggle to even come up with the right tuition to pay for the services.
And that's been very, very, very helpful.
I almost cried that day she gave me the check, because I'm like, this is something that I used to do years ago when I was capable of helping friends, and now I'm finding myself in the position. I was speechless. I'm like, wow.
And when I first got the check, I couldn't believe it, just to know that somebody cares.
Helping them cope with the loss, and they're great. When I say they're great, the word and the meaning great goes beyond.
I feel so happy. I feel safety.
And I don't know what I would do if I didn't have, I will be, I don't want to cry, but I will be like really lost.
Well, thank you everybody, thank you.
Growing up, I was a really shy, introverted person. I kept my friend group really small, maybe talked to 1 to 2 people who I considered really good friends. That all changed until I joined the Boys and Girls Club. I used to come to the Boys and Girls Club just to complete my homework and use their internet, because growing up low income, I didn't have access to internet to complete my work and get ahead One day I'm just sitting in the educational center and just writing my homework, and Diva comes up to me and says, would you like to join P2M? And I decided, why not? I joined, met with a bunch of other club member boys who were attending, and we were able to discuss basically what manhood is all about, and there's no type of stereotype or bubble you should fit in. We're teaching us how to do certain things that we should know, how to grow up, treat people with respect, prepare for job interviews, learn how to tie a tie, which I'm so thankful for because now I know how to do that. I don't think I would have known without it. After joining that program, I started making new friends and rose to the top within these programs. I became vice president at the end of 8th grade-ish. I was co-captain of LAT here, Leaders in Training. I just became this really outgoing, energetic person who would just try to get club members involved who weren't attending, or even those attending Jams Clubhouse, to get involved community-wise within locally and just making an impact. My 8th grade year, I decided that I wanted to do a toiletry drive for orphanages in Mexico. I have a really strong connection with Mexico just because that's kind of my family's heritage, and so I decided, okay, I'm gonna make this impact. So I gathered my Torch Club committee members and started posting flyers, asking school members if we can advertise this on campus. It was a bunch of asking club members for their support and having them bringing in little bottles of shampoo and conditioner, all that stuff. So we started reaching out to local businesses, asking them if they'd like to donate toiletries to local hotels. We were able to make, I would have to say, over 150 care packages which went to these orphanages, and it was such a huge help. During my sophomore year, I joined a group where we worked with the OPCC, which is the Opportunity Center for people experiencing homelessness, where they can receive resources. Every day on my bus ride or walk to school, I see at least 5 people experiencing homelessness, and it's really, really a shame. And I decided, okay, I'm gonna take a change. We decided to donate canned goods, toiletries, and clothing, where we kind of did the whole big 3, and we got, I would have to say, it's over 100 pounds of clothes that we were able to donate to the OPCC. And so I decided that I would continue this and found a club at Santa Monica High School my junior year. It became one of the most populated clubs on campus. We had over 30 members for our club, and we were ready to take action. Clothing drives, canned goods drives, and fundraisers just to donate to local homeless shelters. And during this COVID, we decided we're still gonna take action and continue it, and we were nervous that our members would kind of dwell down, we wouldn't have that same support, but to our surprise, we just gained even more support throughout this whole pandemic process. And so right now we're planning on raising at least over 100 care packages of hygiene feminine products. There is not a lot of feminine products going into homeless shelters, and it's a huge, huge need. And so the Boys and Girls Club, they prepared me for high school and even future, where now I'm going off to college and being able to have my voice heard and make an impact within whichever community environment I'm put into. I've applied to quite a bit of schools. I applied to 15 schools. Through the UC year process, just gaining these skills of motivation just helped keep me going in applying to these schools. I've been accepted into USC and Berkeley with my full tuition covered and just scholarships, and it's just been an amazing process. I would have to thank the Boys and Girls Club yet again for helping me get to this point in my life. From 6th grade, I've always dreamed of becoming a Youth of the Year, and I was constantly trying throughout my middle school years to become Youth of the Month here, and finally I got it, and I was like, this is the best thing ever. I still have the certificate in my room somewhere in a binder, and I just thought I want to step it up a notch and go for that title, Youth of the Year. And finally, during my senior year, I thought this is the time where I'm going to push myself out and do this. It was a lot of work. I know, just completing the interview and being able to share my voice and telling people who I am and what makes me who I am was definitely a really eye-opening experience, and I really, really enjoyed the process. I was competing against these really, really strong candidates, and I thought this could be up for anyone, and it just blew my mind, and it filled me with so much joy just being able to win This has been my dream for about 6 years. I thought I'm gonna be Youth of the Year, and I'm gonna be the representative of club members from underrepresented communities. And I just hope as a Youth of the Year, I can motivate club members, showing them that despite our past and our history, it's possible to overcome these obstacles, and these things are possible as long as we put our full 100% heart and effort into it. Whether you want to flourish academically or just flourish socially, this is a place where you can come and just express yourself or find your creativity and what makes you who you are. I mean, the club members are essentially my family at this point.
Oh, George, you make my heart sing. I just wanted to do a quick interruption to thank the many donors that have been giving throughout this program and have given before we even showed up today. I also wanted to point out that in the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little square and it says Donate Now, and that will click immediately to our Donate platform, which you can do today if you are so inclined. But I want to thank a few people that have given today. One is Unit Partners. Thank you, Ann Jordan, for that. Ken Parr. I want to thank Stephen Gail Litvak, Dustin Peterson, and Sherry Davis, who are on the screen as we speak. Laura Rosenbaum and CIT Bank, I want to thank you for your ongoing support today and every day. Glenn Ricard and Nat Travis, Ronald Call, Jennifer Gordon, Stacy Gottlieb, Dennis Lamb, Valerie Gacio, and Elaine Boularan. So there's so many of you out there that are listening today or watching today and that are willing to give, and we so deeply appreciate that. So again, if you are inclined and able to give today, every little bit helps. We really appreciate it, and you can do it very easily by clicking on the bottom right square that says Donate Now. Even if it flips to the other page, which is thanking a few donors, you can still click on it and it will go to our giving platform. So thank you so much.
Hi, my name is J.A. Adonde, and I first went to the club in 1978. Way back then, it was just the boys club. Back then, I couldn't appreciate what an incredible bargain that was and how advantageous that was to be able to get supervised activity for, I think it was $3.50 a year. That's where my basketball career began and ended. I'll get to the end of it later. Played flag football. Actually, my brief singing career with the choir. Remember, we had black and orange capes were our uniforms. We performed at Disneyland one time, but my main takeaway will always be basketball. And it's the first place I played organized basketball starting in 3rd grade. And we'd play unorganized basketball every day after school or in the summertime. So much basketball played in that gym and on those courts outside. It really helped me develop and grow my interest in the game. The summer after my 10th grade year, we were playing at a camp that 2 local high school basketball coaches held. Somebody stuck out their leg as I was trying to go past them, and they hit just below my kneecap, and it cracked the bone on my tibia, and it was never quite the same. And the doctor told me, because that was a growth plate, that if I wanted to grow, I would have to basically not play sports for a couple years. But in a lot of ways, that was the best thing that could have happened to me, because that allowed me to concentrate on my budding journalism career. So because I was able to dedicate and devote time to being the campus editor and then the co-editor-in-chief of my high school paper, Crossroads, and it really helped furnish my journalism credentials. That was the area I wanted to go into, and so that helped me become a better candidate when I was applying to Northwestern University, Medill School of Journalism, and that's where I went for undergraduate, and got a couple great internships while I was there, one at the LA Times, one at the Washington Post, and graduated and worked at Chicago Sun-Times and went back to work full-time at the Washington Post, and I came back out to the LA Times with my dream job as a sports columnist. And then after that, I went to ESPN for 10 years before coming back to my alma mater at Northwestern, where I'm now the director of sports journalism. The last time I played basketball, though, was at the club. After 2 years off, my knees were feeling better. They had a spring league, and it was just fun. It was just fun to be on the court, being a part of a team, and didn't hurt that we won the championship that year. So that's kind of how I went out. And I just realized that this last couple of days, that's where the first and the last time that I wore a uniform as a part of a official basketball team, any type of organized basketball, that came at the club. And so, you know, it has a dear place in my memory. It will always be the place where dreams flourished, friendships were made. It was a big, noisy, fun, activity-filled home. So I urged all the current members of the Boys and Girls Club to take advantage of the chance to meet people that you wouldn't otherwise do so, people from around the different schools that all come together and congregate there, to expand your circle of friends, to be a part of something that's bigger than yourself, to be a part of a network. And as you get older and as you get in your careers, networking becomes such an important aspect of it. And really the first place I could say that I networked was at the club. Lifelong friends that I still stay in touch with to this day. Those friendships started at the club. I'm so glad to see that it's still going strong in that same location at Lincoln Boulevard. And I'm really excited about the history you'll make going forward. And who knows what the next generation coming through there will be. And I know they'll go on to do great things. And when I think back, I certainly have great memories.
Hi, J.A. Thank you so much for being with us today. So, J.A., it really struck me listening to you kind of juxtaposed to George, who's our sort of, he's not quite an alum yet, he's his senior year. I think you both said a lot of the same things, even though you're a couple decades apart. We heard you both say that the club feels like home. I think you said it was a fun, noisy, fun-filled home. And you both talked about being part of something bigger than yourselves, and you both talked about friendships that you created that were really lifelong friendships for you. And I think really this kind of gets at the essence of the work, which is, youth development. So kind of fostering kids, self-esteem and helping them find their voices and, helping them learn to work in groups with other young people and lead their peers and sort of develop a vision for their lives. So it's really heartening to me to hear that, and that, that work that started so many years ago is continuing on and still impacting kids today. And I don't think that can really be understated. So anyway, thank you, Jay. We really appreciate you joining us today. It's a treat to have you. And I know our audience is sort of chomping at the bit to ask you questions. I think I'm just going to get warmed up with one question that's been kind of on my mind. Because I do get the chance to meet former staff and alumni and kind of have, the different personalities that have been around the club for so many years in my heart and in my mind. And I'm wondering if you can think of any either former friends or coaches from the club that really made a lasting impact on you, and kind of in what way jumps out at you that they made an impact on you.
Three of my real close friends I still stay in touch with today. Came from the Boys and Girls Club, and I wouldn't have met them otherwise. I think it helped at a time when it's a challenge to meet new friends, to feel comfortable, to fit in. So I went to different schools through moving and through changing schools. I went to different schools in kindergarten, first, second, third, fourth grades. Wound up in different schools in all those places, and I sort of settled down a little bit, went to the same school, went to Roosevelt in Santa Monica, 4th through 6th grade. And I met some friends there at the Boys Club who went to different schools around Santa Monica. And then when we all went to middle school, junior high at Lincoln, I had this built-in network thanks to the club. It's funny, I was just thinking about another contact that's continued to this day is Leon Wood, who's a referee in the NBA, was also a member of the 1984 Olympic gold medal basketball team at the games in LA. He went to St. Monica, and he used to practice at the club, and sometimes I would help rebound for him when he was just practicing by himself, because everyone knew this guy was going places. You could just tell he was destined for greatness. He was one of the most recruited players in America. And I just sort of wanted to be attached to him in any way. So I would help rebound for him when he was practicing. And we still stay in touch to this day. I'll see him work an NBA game. I think he just worked the Laker game the other night. But I would run into him in arenas around the NBA, and we had that connection that went all the way back to the early 1980s being at the club.
Wow. Yeah, that's remarkable. So would you say that the club then kind of provided that continuity for you as other things in your life were changing, the club was sort of stayed static?
It did. I got there, I started going there when I was in third grade at Madison School, and then I switched to Roosevelt and then graduated there and went on to Lincoln. And that one constant was the boys club. And I would go there after school. I would go there in the summer, and it was nice to have something in the same place and to see familiar faces. There was sort of a core group that you could count on seeing anytime you went there, and I like that sense of regularity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really important for kids. Okay, so I have a question that was asked earlier that a little birdie was really interested to know, which is pivoting just a little bit, but I think everyone's curious. What is your favorite sports story that you ever reported on, whether it was, Samo High or ESPN?
It gets harder as you get older, and it's funny. Sometimes it becomes easier to sort out. One that was really fun was the World Cup. And soccer wasn't something I was really into, but I got the chance to cover the World Cup in Germany in 2006, and that was fun. And I realized at that point I'd covered 2 Olympic games, actually 3 by the time I got there, 2 Winter Olympics and 1 Summer Games. But I realized that the World Cup is much bigger than the Olympics, because the Olympics only takes place in one city, and the World Cup is spread out at several cities around the country. So it really impacts an entire country while it's going on, as opposed to just one city. And people come from around the world. And it was just a fun that there's nothing like the noise when they're singing the national anthems before the game, and everybody's singing, and people are dancing and chanting in the stands and waving banners and scarves and signs, and the atmosphere that surrounds the World Cup is unmatched.
It's amazing. And that's a long way from home.
Well, it's a long way from home.
Yeah.
Driving on the Autobahn doing like 140 miles an hour.
Oh my gosh. Did you ever envision, it's interesting to hear, it's funny how our paths, are carved out by life circumstances sometimes. So I heard you say that you were passionate about basketball and all kinds of sports, and then you had an injury, and that injury, caused you to kind of pivot, and you were already interested in journalism, but that really helped you kind of focus in, or forced you to focus in. Do you feel like that was, predestined or just a coincidence? I'm just curious what your take is on that.
I was thinking about that recently, if there were, just a handful of moments that shift your life in a different direction, if it can be willed down to that. That might have been unbeknownst to me. Really, I think just whatever fate or whatever allowed me to cross paths with Ann Colburn, who was my 9th grade English teacher. You saw her in that one picture of me with the other educators from Crossroads School. And she was the one that really, gave me my push, the push that I needed, because I wanted to do it, but I don't know if I would have had the initiative to do it by myself. So she basically drafted me onto the school paper at Crossroads. And so it wasn't necessarily a single moment, but the confluence of everything, all the circumstances that led to me interacting with her I'd say it's more than just sort of a lightning bolt moment. It was just that time that I spent with her and the impact that she had on me that really propelled me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a big believer. No one is really, there's no such thing as self-made. We have mentors and people that help guide us through life. And I hope that, that's one of the things we try to instill in our kids at the club, is that ultimately they are now and can and ultimately will be leaders. And that really the goal here is to make ourselves the best version of ourselves so that we can give back to others. So first of all, thank you for joining us today, because you're doing that right this moment. And that's what it's all about. I have a question from, I think, someone you knew from the club when you were younger and who is actually now on our board. His name is Jeremy Lappin. And he said, what lessons do you think you learned or skills did you acquire from your time spent growing up at the club?
First of all, shout out to Jeremy. He was the best player on our team. We were Harvard, 1978, 79, I guess. And, the skills I learned, I guess, were the understanding of the game of basketball. I never had it formally explained to me before. So just basic things like understanding a 2-on-2 or a 2-3 zone. It was funny because for years when people watched and they talked about Syracuse basketball and their coach Jim Boeheim and the 2-3 zone and how difficult it is for opponents to figure out. And I thought, I learned that in 3rd grade. I don't understand why this 2-3 zone should be such a mystery. It's one of the first things I learned about basketball back at the club. But having a formal understanding of the game, the rules of the sports, like basketball and football, I didn't understand. We would play football at recess or lunch hour at school, like Madison School, and I wouldn't understand why the scores would go up by 7s. Okay, now it was 7-7 and 14-7, 21-7. I don't understand why it wasn't just 3-1 or something. And I'm playing at the club and understand the rules that a touchdown is worth 6 points, an extra point, a kick is worth a point, 2-point conversions, all those things that I just didn't, no one taught me the rules until I learned the rules of these sports by playing through the club.
Yeah, that's really cool. It's one thing to kind of, play around. It's another thing to actually understand the game, because then it helps you become a strategist, right? As a player or an observer. That's really cool. That actually is a nice segue, I think, to our next question, which is from our board chair, Tom Larmer. And he says, Jay, how did your non-sports programs at the club, or even potentially your sports programs, because I'm kind of hearing some correlation there, help you in developing your journalism career, do you think?
Again, I think the understanding of sports and knowing what I was talking about, that's really where it kicked in and nurtured, and I was educated in those regards. Now, I guess we learned a little bit like in PE at school, but we're playing stuff like kickball. We weren't playing sports that were going to continue on later in my life that I was going to be called upon to describe and explain. So I wouldn't say as a journalist I was nurtured so much, but as a person, it's fine. I was just telling my class here at Northwestern yesterday about how you bring all of your experiences in, and that should influence your writing and be reflected in your writing. So the experiences that I had and the knowledge of the sports, that came into play in it, because that's where I got it.
Yeah, and I wonder too, it just occurs to me that hearing you talk about some of these relationships that you formed and that being a constant, I wonder if even without realizing it, some of the self-confidence you develop through those relationships informed them later, okay, I'm going to be brave enough to get to know this neighbor who ended up connecting you, or this player who ended up working in NBA, right? I mean, it just based kind of that basis of those social skills. So we have another alumni.
You're always worried about how you're going to be able to make friends, especially when you're going to new school.
That's right.
To make friends there helped me to have more confidence that I could go somewhere new, be thrown into a new environment, and make friends. It wasn't going to be
absolutely. And I think that skill really can't be underestimated, right? I mean, as we get older, it's one of the most core skills we need in whatever profession we choose. But especially in journalism, you have to be brave. You have to knock down doors all the time and get yourself in there and get the answers to your questions. And that's a huge piece of it. So there's a question from, and I'm having a hard time finding it, from Steve Macco, who also was an alumni and
he's my teammate on that championship team in 10th grade.
Yeah,
He was our MVP.
yeah. So it's really cool also to have the opportunity to connect all you guys. But he was talking about, in his question, he was saying, you know, that the staff were such a big part of his experience as a club member, and he's wondering if you have any memories of staff or coaches that had an impact on you back in the day.
Sure. They were constants too. So just like you could count on seeing the same group of kids, you know, I only had two or three coaches for basketball. I remember my football coach that I had one year for a couple of years, Jack DeLuca. He took me just sort of outside. You know, he took me to my first time going to a Coliseum, first time going to a college football game, went to a UCLA game at the Coliseum. When they still played at the Coliseum before they moved to the Rose Bowl. But, you know, that was a great experience that I remember, being at a football game. It just looked so different than it did on television.
Yeah.
But that was something, you know, and I think a lot of the coaches would kind of do outside things like that, would get involved and would organize activities that went beyond just the practices and the games. And so that was a great memory that I had that came from a coach of the club.
Ah, that's so great. Yeah, I have to say I hear that a lot from alumni, is some of the like field trips, and we now do a lot of camping trips and things like that, or, you know, to going to amusement parks, just things that, you know, are costly or provide, you know, require transportation that maybe, you know, kids don't always have at their fingertips. And it's really creates these lifelong memories. So I have another great question in here that I love, from Bettina Duval, a longtime board member, past president. And she asks, what advice do you have for our current club members?
The current club members?
Yeah, for our current kids, club kids.
Yeah, I would say take advantage of the activities, roam around the whole place. You heard me say in the video, I was based on the basketball courts most of the time. I had other friends who, in the library now, there's the tech centers, computer centers, arts and crafts. You know, I didn't do everything as much, but to take advantage of that whole block that's basically there, that big chunk of the block that the club occupies, and really roam around.
Yeah, I agree. That's great. And so the last question I'm going to pose to you, and then I know we're getting to the bottom of the hour. We have a couple more things to say, and then we'll wrap. But you know, if you had any advice for those of us trying to make the club the best experience it can be for kids, what advice would you give? So whether it's something that you experienced that you would never want us to lose, or a vision that you might have that we could realize in the future.
Just keep fighting to provide these opportunities and these experiences, and to take people places. You know, we went everywhere from Disneyland to Raging Waters to Dodger games. All those opportunities and experiences beyond. I would hope that the club can continue to provide, taking people places, just even if it's a group trip to the beach a few blocks away in Santa Monica.
Yeah.
You know, just those opportunities that maybe you will get a chance to do it on your own. Maybe your parents would do it for you and with you, but maybe they won't. And, you know, not everybody has those opportunities. So I would hope that, in addition to all the great services and activities and the structure that's given there on the site, but to encourage people to go beyond the site and explore Los Angeles and take people to all the museums and the parks and all the different things that are available to see and do in LA. I would hope that the club could provide opportunities to see and experience those.
Yeah, I love that. I appreciate that. In this field of after school, which of course has changed and evolved a tremendous amount in the last, 50 some odd years. It was essentially founded after World War II when moms and dads were working. And so all of a sudden kids needed care after school. It's gone from being a babysitting service to being this, real lever for change in kids' lives, and particularly under-resourced kids. One of the sort of phrases that has come out of the evolution of this work is narrowing the opportunity gap. And you just hit the nail on the head. And I think that sometimes those opportunities, whether it's to build friendships or, resiliency and self-confidence and communication skills, or, STEM and college access and, all, athletic stuff, arts, all these things, I think we think about school and we think about their school day and how important that is, but we forget about all of those extra things that actually help form the person. And their passions and their sort of approach to life. So I appreciate you talking about that, because I think that's really important. So I would be remiss if I did not say we are here today because we really need to raise the resources we need to safely reopen our doors in the summer, which we anticipate a big full house for summer at 3 of our sites. John Adams Middle School, of course, our main branch where JA was and that he was talking about, and of course our Mar Vista Garden site in the heart of that housing complex there. To do that safely and do it well, but also to offer everything we've always offered, plus the additional services to help families, because they're certainly, low-income families are certainly not out of the woods financially and otherwise. And, it's going to be a while until we all are back to normal. But also to help kids get back on track academically, because we know that there's been a lot of slides backwards with remote learning for a variety of reasons. And then emotionally, a lot of kids have been, as we say, sort of sitting on the bench for a year. So we need to get kids, back in action, feeling good about themselves, being reminded what they love and what they're passionate about and what they're good at. So it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of resources to do that. We have to, of course, pay our staff and buy some new equipment and supplies, make some fixes around the clubhouse, all the good stuff that it takes to run this organization. So we're here today to ask for everyone to make a gift. If you can, any amount helps. But of course, we just can't do this work without it. We're almost to our goal. We're at 126,363. It's very exciting. Our goal is 135,000, and I see a lot of our wonderful supporters are stepping up, and we're so grateful. But we wanted to make sure that we go ahead and ask. If you can make a gift today, we'd really appreciate it. The bottom right box has that donate now, and it goes right to an easy platform that you can give. And you can also, of course, send a check to the club afterwards. But that's what we are here to do today. JA, thank you. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you and hearing from you.
It's been great to spend time, and thank you for all the donors in particular. It's been great to see the donation counter tick up. I think it's been about $40,000 or so just over the course of this hour. So keep going. We're almost there. And, thank you for continuing on and giving these kids today the opportunities that I was so fortunate to have. And it's great to see that this generation and future generations will have those opportunities as well, even greater opportunities.
Thanks, JA. Thanks. It was such a pleasure to meet you, and I hope you can come see us at the club soon when you're back into town.
Yeah, we'd love to come back.
Okay. All right. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Thank you for being here, and thank you from the bottom of our hearts for your support in all forms. We really appreciate it. We can't do this work without you.
Obviously, we are extremely appreciative of the generosity of our long-standing major donors. But if we are to be successful at achieving our goals with our young people, it's critical that we have, as they say on PBS, the support of viewers like you. And I want to thank each and every one of you who has contributed in the past or has chosen to do so today. As you can see from our program, the efforts of the Boys and Girls Club of Santa Monica makes a major difference in the lives of many people. Thank you very much for attending, and I'll hope to see you next year.